Hi there, I go by the name the Celtic Storyteller, and I'm really excited to share with you my 2021 world predictions. Now, the idea of doing predictions for 2021 has been jumping around my head for the past week or so, along with the idea that this is okay for me to do even though I don't call myself a psychic. So in order to do this, I put aside most of yesterday to give this my all. I planned a number of ways that I could tap into my intuition and into the universal energy that may hold information about 2021 and what might unfold for us. I wanted to be open to receive information that was important to put out into the world, so I was really open to trying new ways to invite this information in. Now, the first way I tried to tap into my intuition was to go out and visit my willow tree outside, and I stayed there for a while talking to it, and then I crouched down and I gazed into the fast growing puddle underneath it, looking for images of the future. This was my first attempt at scrying, and it didn't work. So then my next attempt was to meditate in a cozy chair for a good while, and I did feel an excited energy and a small warm light, but no images of 2020 appeared. But this is all fine, because all along I knew the way that this was going to work for me was in writing. So after my meditation, I journaled, and then I did some free writing, which I'll do a screenshot of what came out. It's a bit mad. I wouldn't say there's anything, of use in it. But then after that, I asked 3 questions for world predictions. And for each question, I drew 3 tarot cards for the answer. And then I just allowed my pen and my thoughts to flow as I wrote down the predictions. And I just wrote what came to me, and I didn't think too much about what the normal card interpretations might be or my own personal opinions. So I have done my best with these questions and predictions to keep any of my own biases out of them and to leave them open to interpretation where that is needed. So for each of these questions, I'm going to leave a timestamp for you below. So the questions were broad so that I wasn't putting any of my own biases in the questions themselves, and I will go through what I wrote and then I will give you a quick sum up of what I think about this prediction at the end of each. So let's jump right into question number 1. I'll just put these ones aside. Now, the first question I asked was, what is going to happen with Covid-19 in 2021? And for this, I got the Knight of Swords reversed, the 3 of Swords, and the 2 of Swords. Now, what struck me first, and you can probably see it here yourself, is that all the cards are swords. So this feels like a clear indication that this prediction was going to be about the vaccine, with the swords representing the syringe and the needle. So firstly, the Knight of Swords reversed. I'll just go through what I wrote down and then we'll talk about it at the end. Now, you should know that I don't do reversals at all. I keep all of my cards in the deck upright, so if for some reason a reversal manages to sneak in, I always pay attention to it, okay? The vaccine is not going to be the saviour that it's cracked up to be. It will be forcibly pushed on us, charging in under the guise of a knight, of a saviour, okay? Those pushing the vaccine are covered in the armour of the honest souls who've worked hard to find a safe and effective vaccine, but they do not have the desire to heal as much as they have the desire for us to take the vaccine. Any selfish motives they have or may have are disguised under this shining armour of the knight. Doubt clouds the mind of some of those who have worked hard on this vaccine in order to find a cure for Covid-19. Some may worry about the speed of the phases of development on the delivery methods, or they would like to be given more time in general with the trials and with the rollout. However, the speed of the rollout of the vaccine just makes it too difficult for them to stop. So it's like a bulldozer, it can't be stopped. There are those involved in all aspects of the development, the sale and the distribution of the vaccine would be more comfortable or confident if they were given more time to consider other vaccine options that might be slower to develop, but they were not given the opportunity to do so because of those who are pushing the fast timelines that have led to the vaccine to be distributed already. Okay, and then we have the 3 of Swords, okay? It will be too late for some people when problems arise after taking the vaccine. Some scars will not heal easily and mistrust will dominate. Vaccines will continue to be pushed forcibly on the population during this time. It will be very difficult to see past the bitter conflict this throws up. This will dominate the landscape for a while. It may be that the issues of the vaccine are worst in those with heart problems, or that the vaccine affects cells in the heart more than other cells. Somehow I think heart issues may present themselves, or it could transpire that 3 of the vaccines are not as effective or have more of an effect on the heart than others. Now, there are 2 sides to every story, like any other story, okay? It may be difficult to see what the truth is unless you block out what you initially see and the feelings that this stirs up. So you'll need to get your information from various sources, and maybe not just your favourite media source. So that's reading articles by researchers and scientists and a variety of well-informed sources. Listening to the news headlines and reading the top article of your favourite newspaper may only present you with a snapshot of the full story. The Two of Swords calls for a steady, unbiased contemplation. Okay. For this, you need your information. For this, you'll need information you can trust and skim down to the bare facts, and then weigh them evenly, and that will offer a way forward. There will be a real divide of opinions and feelings that could result from any negative effects of this rushed vaccine rollout, which will be not easy to overcome. The split in opinions will look like 50-50. So the split in opinions may look even. Now in total, you see there are 6 swords on the table. 6 is the number of balance and equality. So coupled with this last card, which looks like a 50-50 outcome on balance, there will be positive and negative coming out of the vaccine in 2021. As timing, swords are weeks, so this is 6 weeks. 6 weeks after there are mass injections of the vaccine. So from the time where you are seeing almost half any particular population being vaccinated, at that point problems may come to light, as swords also indicate the truth. This truth will push for a balance in how we are dealing with this rushed rollout, and you will see a more evenly defined split in opinion in the vaccine rollout. Okay, so that is the end of the first prediction that I wrote down when I saw these cards. So this is one that, considering the pace of the vaccine rollout, it won't take long to see if this one will pan out. It's also probably, out of the 3 predictions, the one that is maybe the most probable, because it's, you can see already there is a bit of a rushed vaccine rollout. We don't know what effect that's going to be. Let's just see. But out of the 3 predictions, this was the one that didn't surprise me as much as the other 2. I was surprised that I wrote down forcibly. When I saw this reversed, I wrote that the vaccine was, being forcibly pushed out. And, if I was to write it in my own words, I would have changed that to maybe persuasive. And not forcibly. Forcibly maybe sounds a bit controversial, but I'm just being true to what I wrote at the time. After all the things that I did, and the meditation, and I wanted to stay true to what I wrote down. And not being careful about what people think about what I wrote down. This is just me being honest to what I wrote down. So yeah, like I said forcibly. I wrote forcibly. I might, under consideration, I might say persuasively, anyway, I'd just be really curious to see what people think about that. And if readers are watching this, what would you see? What comes into your mind when you see these cards? I just think it's fascinating that I asked about Covid-19 and I got all swords, and just immediately wrote this is, that this was about the vaccine, that these were all needles, and it was a tough one as well, because it seemed to be a little bit negative, maybe, that the vaccine wasn't going to be 90% effective or 100% positive thing. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting one to see if it pans out. Okay, so that's the end of my first question. We'll move on to the next question. Okay, so the second question I asked, I wanted it to be about the environment, all right? So I asked, what about our environment, our planet, and our relationship with nature or the planet? Again, I asked a really broad question, so it would leave room for any insights into this topic. So I drew the King of Cups, the Sun, and the Knight of Cups. Okay, so firstly, for people who aren't, that familiar with tarot, the kings don't necessarily, and knights don't necessarily mean a male figure. Okay, the king is a mature figure. The knight is like a knight. They're on a quest, so it can mean anybody, any person. Okay, so here's the prediction as I wrote it down. Leaders with heart will emerge. They have been in the background, sitting silently by while watching the chaos erupt around them. Now, so many people will step up to publicly show their support for environmental causes. These people have a deep connection with nature and are compassionate and caring. They have a sincere desire to help. Okay, this is going to trigger others to see the light. Ideas will flow and a way forward will be illuminated. Young and old will feel inspired and look to the future with a joyful hope at what can be achieved when nature and our planet is treated with compassion. An enlightened mind or a group of enlightened souls will declare that the planet, that Earth, should be given rights in much the same way as humans and animals have rights. When Earth is given the status of a person or a being of consciousness, when it is elevated in our understanding as an entity or a being, as being alive, we will want to give it rights. To make this happen, an army of volunteers will take up the challenge. Creative souls, artistic souls, lawyers, activists and public figures, all with souls, whole teams of people and a whole wealth of knowledge to teach and bring this message, this insight to every nation, so that all parts of the world are given an opportunity to see the planet as a living organism, to be cherished and given rights and to be protected. Those on this quest will not only spread this message, but they will also listen to the stories from each place they visit, collecting stories which will act as proof to support this quest and have the Earth recognised as being aware of its own existence, of having rights. Now, this prediction, that's the end of that, what I wrote about that, and I have to say this one surprised me the most. I mean, I'm really planet friendly and I'm earth friendly. I love nature. I'm concerned about the environment, but it did seem a bit of a stretch to me to say the planet has an awareness of itself or that it's an entity or a being or alive. But when I thought about it more, I realised that maybe it's not that big a jump from understanding the earth as a whole ecosystem to it being aware, maybe not in the way that humans and animals are aware, but in a sense that maybe it's harder for us to understand right now. And maybe the first proof would be to show that the planet reacts or Earth reacts in its own defence. I'm just putting this out there. I also felt that by predicting this, was I already fulfilling a part of the prophecy as such? So am I one of those people, the minds that declare the Earth should be given rights because I've just said it, I wrote it and then I said it? I don't know, has anybody thought of this before? So it's just what I wrote when I saw this card. I'm trying to make sense of it now afterwards. Anyway, I'd really love to hear what anybody listening to this thinks about this prediction. I'd love to see this one come to light. I'd love to see Earth being understood in a more sophisticated way than it is right now. So if you think you're one of these Kings of Cups, these Knights of Cups, if you've had this illumination, if you have ideas about how this can happen, I would really love to hear about it. So again, you're free to comment below and start a conversation. This is what I'd love to see happening. So let's wait and see. So that's the end of my second prediction. Now, the third prediction, I wanted it to be about people. You can probably see already there's more cards than the three, and you'll understand why when I go through this prediction, okay? All right. The third and last question I asked, I wanted it to be about people. So I asked, what is going to affect people's everyday lives the most in 2021? Okay, and I drew the Six of Pentacles, the Two of Pentacles, and the Emperor. And I'll go through the clarifiers in a minute. So let me just tell you what I wrote, and then we'll go into it in a bit more detail then. Okay. Debt and handouts. Your financial future being weighed up by ones with money. So for some, this is a family member helping out. For some, you're in the position to help others. However, this is a question on a much grander scale. I'm asking about world predictions. So this is really indicating large institutions like banks, the World Bank, printing money and distributing it to needy countries who are only too happy to be given relief. On the face of it, this generosity is welcomed and necessary. On the face of it, this is balanced, because this card story tells us sometimes that we are the ones in need and sometimes we're the ones helping those in need. This lending of money is really an unequal balance between money lenders and the countries or people accepting the loans. This unequal balance and its knock-on effects begin to seep more and more into our daily struggles and into our conscious awareness. We go from thinking it is great that we are getting these loans to support us during this crisis to realising the fact that it is not a long-term solution. The dance, the illusion that the giver and the receiver are equal, that the balance can be swung back the other way at any time, or when time passes, begins to lose its grip. Realization dawns that one side will remain higher than the other. The time it will take to readjust to being on top will be far in the future. Our immediate future will be one supreme ruler, one way of doing things. 2020 was the year of the Emperor, because the 2 and 2 in 2020 make 4, and this was the Tower card of the year. But all along, 2020 was really the year that birthed the rise of the Emperor. Ultimate control in the hands of one or a few with one goal, one rule and one way. Sacrifices are made when this happens. Individual freedoms are lost to allow for the alignment to this one way. Now, that is what came out when I wrote, and I couldn't leave it at that. So I asked, will this Emperor, this energy here at the end, be in our interests, and for how long it will last? Okay, so let me go through these clarifying cards and what I wrote for them, and again, and then I'll just give you my own opinion at the end. So I'm asking, is this Emperor for our good? And I get this, the World. This is a really positive card, okay? So this is yes, this is for our good. This brings us a completion of an old way of life and heralds the beginning of a new one. Somehow this brings us a freedom that is caused for celebration. We will happily step into a new way of living, ready to start again. And I'm asking, how long will this last? And I get the Three of Swords. So this is going to feel like control as long as you hang on to the heartache of it. The suffering or loss of one way of perceiving money and how we use it to live, what we own, our relationship with money and debt. When you suffer, you learn. So when the lessons about our relationship with money, are learnt, it will free us to step forward into a new world. So I left it at that because I was writing predictions. I didn't want to keep asking questions of my own, to clarify what I personally wanted to come out, thought about this outcome. But I have to say this one did leave me a bit scared. The thought that there would be, just one way of doing things, we would be under control of people who had been lending us money. So, the Emperor does look like it represents a dictatorship or communism. I live in a capitalist society, so it appears to be a different way of living. I couldn't see how debt and one rule would be a good thing. It looked very much like that New World Order scenario, I'm not saying that that's a thing that can happen or, but just saying this is the way it can look if you're reading it this way. But on reflection, it could be that under such debt and control, we're forced to free ourselves, and this wakes us up. So, so that, many of us have actually, when you surrender to the pain that this would cause to be under complete control, that would bring us to the point where we want to jump into a new world, a new way of living. So maybe it needs to be this bad for us to see the truth. So anyway, after thinking about that, I did draw another card to ask if the Emperor is a good thing or, a part of this new world. And I drew this, which is the 8 of Cups, which is walking away. So again, it could be, like I said, so being under the control of one way of doing things, this Emperor type energy, would show us what we're missing, and we'll walk towards a new future. But this card, this 8, this infinity, it can always be seen as walking away or walking towards something. So I just really think, I got to the point where I was, I keep asking for an answer. You keep asking the same question of tarot, you're just, you're not going to get very far. So I think this is one that I need to pan out to see if this is what happens. What is this going to mean? And how is this going to happen? Because, it's true that we are already, a lot of countries are already in debt from 2020 because governments borrowed for the PPE, they borrowed to support businesses that had to close. Now let's see what the addition of the debt for the vaccine is going to cause and where it's going to lead. Again, this is one that is quite fascinating, and I'd love to hear your opinions on this. So do comment below if you have any other interpretations yourself, or what you think about this particular prediction. Okay, this was the hardest one to reread after I wrote it. Like I say, I just wrote what came out, and it was a tough one. Okay, so I am going to leave it at that for my 2021 predictions. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to hear your thoughts. So keep in mind my disclaimer at the start. I don't call myself a psychic, and I have openly shared how I came to write these predictions. I myself am going to be eagerly seeing if they come to pass or how things pan out in these particular 3 areas that I ask questions about in our lives in 2021. So I am wishing you and your loved ones peace and good health. Slán go fóill, which is bye for now in Irish, and I'm really wishing you all the best.